Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics. That's Classics. This is episode number 1725 and Doubleshot number 1619. Yep. The first trade here is the final trade for a trade series. Well, basically, a continuation from a very short-lived ongoing series. We have Iron Fist Living Weapon, Volume 2, Redemption. Collecting issues 7 through 12 of the ongoing series. Serial and drawn by Carrie Andrews. Yeah, I think the artwork is okay. I'm not really biggest fan of it. Yeah, this one kind of wraps up some loose ends here. Like the character Brenda. By the way, after this book, she pops up in one other book after this, and that is it for her. Most of it, we still kind of show off basically Iron Fist's backstory with him and his parents when they were killed years prior. Of course, there's some connection between his love interest in this book plus Harold Magna, the guy who actually murdered Iron Fist's parents. And there's a lot of stuff with dragons in here. Yes. And also, Iron Fist gets his own student. Yes, he does. I'll get to more what this sets up in a minute. Yep. So he has to stay with Kunlun for a while because they had to rebuild the city. The city was pretty much destroyed anyway, so they had to rebuild the city. And also the daughter of Thunderer, who apparently, it seems as though it's very heavily implied that the Thunderer's daughter, she may have been attracted to Iron Fist. But because of the fact that stuff related to Kunlun and the fact she can't actually stay here, she chose not to act on it. Probably also because he was in a relationship anyways with the woman Brenda, who is a reporter, and he's been sleeping with her because of this interview he's having. And also the fact that they have a fight, and of course they made out. And then it's implied, then basically shown off in this book that she commits suicide by the end of the book. And we have Pig Kung, who is basically just dropped up to be a student. He becomes a Thunderer for the first time. And what is his setup? A mini-series called Iron Fist. Plural. Yep. And, yeah, that's it for this book. Yep. Very short-lived book. By far, of all the Iron Fist ongoing series, solo book-wise, this is by far, that's ongoing, the shortest. Yes, this is even shorter than the original Iron Fist one from the 70s. That was 15 issues. This was only 12. Yes, and it took us a little over a year to release 12 issues. I'm going to give this book a 9 out of 10. Final thoughts on this book. I love the writing in this book. I think Carrie Andrews definitely is a good writer. It seems like when you read this book, like at the start of the book, the artwork is not very good. It does get a little better. Yes, it does get a little better as time goes on, which is to appreciate that. And it does take a little while for Iron Fist to put on his freaking costume. Though, I should point out, though, it's a costume he wore for actually one of his more recent books. Now, you probably think, okay, aside from the Iron Fist miniseries, what is next for Iron Fist after this book wraps up? Well, Power Man Iron Fist. Yep, that was the next book that came out for him. No, seriously, that was the very next book he was actually in. Well, mostly anyways. Because, like, as soon as this book wrapped, actually he became kind of part of he showed up in Superior Foes Spider-Man. Yes. He showed up in that book. And then he popped up in, of all books, basically they gave back the Power Man Iron Fist book, first time since it had been several years. I actually really enjoyed this book. I am going to review it sometime in the future. Yes, it's a very short-lived book, mind you. And I was baffled at the time of why this book got canceled for only 15 issues. Especially the book was really good. Though here's the weird thing though about this book. The number for this book does not count as part of the Iron Fist numbering. This book does. And after the book ended, he had the really good Ed Bronson, Mike Perkins ongoing series. Didn't last very long though. No, it didn't, surprisingly. Yeah, you might think it lasts longer than this. Let's see. 8+, I think it's like 7, I think it is. Let's see. Oh, 70. It looks like 70. It looks like about 9-ish. Yeah, 9 plus 7. It's like 16 issues. Makes it even slightly longer than the original Iron Fist book. But it's not the longest Iron Fist book to date. No. Solo-wise, that's got to go to the Immortal Iron Fist series. A really good book. Yes. And since that book wrapped up, the Iron Fist book, he hasn't really done a lot. I was kind of like, really? You end a really good book after only... Like, here's the thing. There was nothing in this list when issue 80 came out, the fact the book was ending. It just ended. And then he popped up, like, well, right after that book wrapped up, he later popped up in the Wolverine Ant-Man miniseries. He had another miniseries, which was really good, done by one of the guys who did the original book, Larry Hama. And that was his most recent solo book he did. Well, until he had another book published recently, except it does not focus on him. He's got a successor because apparently in Heart of the Dragon, he actually lost his powers. Yes, lost his powers. This book basically had a problem with that. Basically, like, oh, he kind of was temporarily losing his powers, but it's been fixed by the end of the series. Yeah. But yeah, in the case of books basically part of the Iron Fist numbering, this was the last one. You're thinking, really? Yes, really. This was the last one I had to cover because I have covered the original ongoing series. In the Iron Fist Epic Collection, there is the Iron Fist Returning Kun Lung. Yep, I covered that one. I actually own it. It's on my shelf right now. There is the Ed Bronson run, which is really good. And now this book. Oh yeah, also more to Iron Fist as well. I've covered pretty much everything that's counted as part of the Iron Fist solo numbering. I mean, all that's left for him is just the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu trade. Well, the trade, it's the Epic Collection for Deadliest Hands of Kung Fu, which collects all the stories he had for that book. There is Immortal Weapons, Immortal... Oh, yeah, by the way, there was actually another digital book after that book ended. There was, it was Iron Fist Phantom Limb. I have reviewed that. That was actually a pretty good book. It was about him losing his hand and eventually get it back. I thought it was kind of weird. So, I think just a few books left for him. And that's it. If you want to think of one character from Marvel, like, Iron Fist covered almost everything for him, but if there's one character from Marvel I've covered virtually was nothing of his solo books, Luke Cage. You're thinking, really? You've covered Luke Cage, a bunch of other books, you don't cover any of his solo books? Yeah, I just haven't, honestly. Alright, moving on to a different character. Now, I've never talked about this one before in my reviews. I've talked about the run that came in for Rebirth, but never the original run. Now, I've talked about this character for a run from Detective Comics. Who is he, you might ask? Batwoman! This is Hunting Tides. This is basically the first two trades for the Batwoman, the very first run for ongoing series, one that lasted 40 issues. This is actually taking those two trades and combining them together. This is roughly covering issues 0 through 11 of the Batwoman ongoing series. By the way, this one had 2 issue zeros. 2. The first one was published just before the start of this run, and the second one was published after issue 12. I'm not kidding about that. That seriously was true. Mostly put for this book. This is done by the original creators of this book, Hayden Blackman and J.H. Williams. Yes, J.H. Williams III, who does really good artwork here. The thing is, J.H. Williams does not do all the interior artwork. After issue like 3, he stops for some reason. I'm not really sure why. But he continues on as the co-writer of the book. Though he's not the only writer. We also have Amy Reeder, John McCarthy, Perry Perez, Rob Hunter, and Richard Fee. This cover here is by Ben Oliver. Yeah. Now, the thing with this run is, people love the original run for this book. The original 24 issues. This run is praised a lot because this run is really good. It's the run that comes after this that gets heavily chastised by the public. My gosh, the last 16 issues of this book are hated as some of the worst books anybody's ever read for any... Well, I'll get to that when I get to that last trade. Now, mostly put in this book, it's kind of implied that the Detective Comics run is canon to this, the Illogy and the Cutter, where this basically picks up right after that, where you actually have Batwoman starting a relationship with Maggie Sawyer. And here's something you might find interesting. They have sex in issue 2. Yep, and they actually have this in black and white of these two having sex, while Batty Kane, who is Kate Kane's cousin, aka Flamebird, fighting crime. And of course, she's in the hospital, and because of J.H. Williams, excuse me. Here's the thing. He brings in a group organization he created, and, well, one character he did create, the other one he didn't. He brings in the D.E.O. and Batwoman's offered a job with them. And apparently, according to Bones, here's a fun fact with Bones, he is not a J.H. Williams character. Nope, J.H. Williams had nothing to do with Bones. Nope. Despite the fact his name is Director Bones, his original name was Mr. Bones. And you're thinking, who created this character? Roy Thomas. Yes. Roy Thomas created Director Bones when he ran around as a supervillain back in the 80s. And he had he wears gloves because whenever he touches somebody with his bony hands, they die. And here's the thing. Someone used his hands to kill the Star-Spangled Kid in the original Infinity Inc. comic book, which in story, that disbanded the original group. Yep, it did. Here, of course, Batwoman's offered a chance to, of course, she's offered a bulletproof costume, which, by the way, they actually know she's Kate Kane. And she's offered a chance to work with him in exchange for, get this, in order to make sure her father does not go to prison for using military equipment to help a vigilante. Yeah, if ever been court-martialed. So he's there. So basically, Philip Kane does not really do a lot of stuff in this book. He's mostly just at the side of his niece, Betty Kane. And that's mostly what he does in these issues. Yep. And at one point, Batwoman is asked to spy on her own girlfriend, Maggie Sawyer. Yep. Now, you're probably thinking, Maggie Sawyer, isn't she a Superman character? What did she do in the Bat books? Well, that was something Greg Rucka did. No, seriously, he did that. Yes, for some reason, he brought her over from Superman. Maybe because, and this is my personal theory on the matter, I think that he brought her over because I don't think the Superman writer has anything for her to do. So he's like, hey, can I have her get transferred to Gotham City? He'd be like, sure, whatever, take her. We have no plans for her. Yes, Maggie Sawyer, a character, mind you, who was created by John Byrne. Yes, the legendary John Byrne created Maggie Sawyer, who, by the way, she was out as a lesbian until like 2000, I think it was. Though they set up the implication of that back in Action Comics 600, which was released in 1987. Yes, they implied way back then that Maggie Sawyer was a lesbian, and she's kind of in a way bisexual in a way, though she's in a relationship with Kate, and the relationship's going really well in this book. And here's at the start of this book, it's implied that Renee Montoya, who was Kate's previous girlfriend, is dead. Here's the thing. 4 years later, that gets retconned. Yes, it does. It gets retconned. 4 years later, reveal, nope, she's not dead. Yeah, because here's the thing. In brief Flashpoint, she was the question. When she came back in the Francis Member Bible Show, their final four issue David City Comics, she was brought back as Harpo's partner and taking out another partner of his who he was sleeping with. Yep. But this book is really, really good. I love it. Excuse me. I give this book I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. It's just really good. And I can't wait to discuss next trade, which is called World's Finest, which has her team up with Batwoman. And you might be asking, does at any point, because, well, Batwoman's a lesbian, and the fact that, well, does she probably think Wonder Woman's hot? Of course, everyone thinks Wonder Woman's hot. Does she end up hitting on her in the storyline? No, not that I can think of. They just do a team-up story. That's most of what World's Finest is. And the way this book is written, you can almost kind of say with this book, it's not that well connected to the main Bat books. You can also kind of say it's mostly taking place pre-Flashpoint. Well, from the original 24 issues, yes, you can definitely tell that. Basically, that despite New 52 relaunch, it's implied that this is still taking place in pre-Flashpoint because the way the artwork is. That's my personal guess the matter. You might be thinking, does Dame help in the book? Nope. No, he does not. And the weird thing is, Damian has never really interacted with Batwoman very much. And you're scratching like, really? He hasn't? The only time I could think of they've ever interacted with each other was during a 3-part story in Batman and Robin Volume 1. For the Blackest Night tie-in for those issues. And that was it. That was the only time I could think of these two ever interacted. And did he act any other time before or after that? Nothing I could think of, no. Yep. But I enjoyed this book. It was really good. And I can't wait to discuss the very next book. Okay, so that's going to be pretty much it for this particular view. I'm going to try to work on my next view, which is going to be Attack. Well, I might save it for tomorrow. So I'm going to just go ahead and do another comic order. Yep. Yeah, so see you in the next video. Bye.